Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. We are really glad that you're with us for episode 13, everybody. It's episode 13.
We're teenagers.
It's time for us to start a rebellion. We're doing it. Don't tell us what to do. This is our podcast. Is that what that sounds like? I don't know.
You're the one that has teenagers.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm waiting
to
for
be
that.
clear, the sixth grade year, like 12, 13, they're really just more weird than anything. So maybe it's just a weird phase for us more than anything else.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Hopefully we grow out of it fast. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I hope so too. Hey, today we're talking about kindness. We've been kind of walking through the fruit of the Spirit this summer. And I think just to be clear, the bold move that I want us all to be thinking about is that act of kindness that we could be willing to make to someone in our life who is just desperate for something kind to happen to them. Because I think when we're willing to be kind and just to be intentional about looking at people and actually having concern and care for them, I think those acts of kindness make way more difference than we know. Do you guys agree? Do you disagree? It's just like, Tim, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong on this.
No, Tim, you're right.
Hey, that doesn't happen very often. Thank you. This is my favorite episode so far.
It might be that she's just being kind.
We'll never know. We'll never know. I think a lot of times we just kind of limit kindness as just like maybe a trend or just like a moment. Like you see the pay it forward type moments.
Yeah, the Starbucks line.
Yes,
Or the...
yes. Sir, the car in front of you paid for your meal.
Yeah.
Would you like to pay for the car behind you?
Yeah, and then you look in your rearview mirror.
It's like 18 people.
And you're like,
no.
Perhaps not.
I don't know.
I saw an amazing clip online. I spend entirely too much time apparently just watching reels and clips that make me laugh. This guy, he pulls up. It's that instance.
Yep.
Sir, the person in front of you paid for your meal. Would you like to pay for the person behind you? And in the clip, he looks behind him. He's like, yeah, I think I would. He pays for them, and then he immediately just hightails it all the way around, and he pulls in line behind that guy in the hopes that he's going to pay it for it.
Yes.
What would you like? 52 cheeseburgers, 17 fries. It's hilarious. Like, yeah, he's
works.
playing the system.
And then he
Why
gets
not?
to the window and they're like, yeah, they didn't pay for you.
Cancel my order, please.
Yeah. So ridiculous. But no, I mean, to be real, I think one of my favorite stories that Jesus tells that illustrates this of kindness is the Good Samaritan. Mm-hmm. When Jesus says the greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. The second is just like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And so there's some guy in the crowd who's like that guy. He's like, well, who's my neighbor, Jesus? Like he's trying to get out of every possible responsibility he can. He's hoping that Jesus will say, it's the person who literally lives next door to you. That's it. That's the only person you need to love.
Yeah.
So he tells the story of the Good Samaritan. And that story, it's brutal. Some guy has been beaten up, is laying on the side of the road. And three people, Jesus identifies, walk by him. One is the Levite, which is the priest. So today is where it's the pastor. Like, that's me. I walk right by the guy and see him in this terrible state and just look the other way and step around and ignore it, right? The second person Jesus says walks by is the temple assistant, which is hilarious. So it's like, that's us, collectively, followers of Jesus. And it's the third person, the Samaritan, who's the total outsider, the loser. Nobody likes this guy. He's the guy who stops and bandages the guy's wounds, takes him to a hotel and says, hey, take care of this guy until he's better. And that's when Jesus says, who was the neighbor? And the guy who's, being annoying is like, it was the Samaritan. And Jesus is like, yes, now go do the same thing, which is the whole point, right? I'm supposed to be the neighbor. And if I'm going to be a good neighbor, that is overflowing out of kindness. I have to have concern and care for the people in my life. And I think today more than ever, there's people who are hurting. There are people who are struggling. And I think kindness today makes more of a difference than we could possibly imagine. Any thoughts on that? Any experiences of that in your own life?
Well, the thing that comes to mind, like in that story, there's a couple things that happen that are really interesting to me. One is obviously what he does, the Good Samaritan does to like take care of the guy and then take him to a hotel, right?
He goes above and beyond.
And says, whatever happens here, whatever you need, I'll pay for it.
Yes.
Right. So there's the time that he gives to make that happen and the money that he gives to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I honestly, a lot of times we kind of look at that and think, wow, that's pretty impressive that he even would pay for the bill. And the money that goes into that's a big deal.
Yep.
But I think in our world today, it's not even the money. It's the time.
It's the time.
Right.
It's I think we protect our time as much as anything else.
Yeah.
And not even protect it for good things. A lot of times it's protecting it just for own amusement to lay on the couch and
That's
scroll,
fair.
do the death scroll on Facebook or whatever. And honestly, just being willing to listen to somebody, look them in the eye, hear them out, hear their problems, and see what's going on inside of them. That probably makes as much of an impact in people as anything else that we can do.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah. Buying someone's order, it's a start.
Yes, it's a start.
But there's more to it.
There's a whole other layer.
Yeah.
That's good. And to be clear, I just say it again. Just being willing to notice someone, to show concern and to show care for them. When the Bible speaks of kindness, that's the idea that is being spoken about. It's tender-hearted concern for others.
Yeah.
And I think if we really live that way and we're intentional about living with tender-hearted concern for others, we allow the character of Jesus to overflow out of our lives.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk a lot about, or in the world, we talk about things like, okay, you walk someplace and sometimes you're walking in a downtown area and there's homeless people or something.
Yep.
And sometimes you can look at that and think, okay, should I like walk up to this person and start a conversation?
Right.
Try see if I can help them. Maybe sometimes, yes. Sometimes also I think it's important to just be smart.
That's true.
Not every single one of those scenarios is something you need to walk into.
Having wisdom in those moments is good. Yes.
So, but yeah, just having real, true care and concern for people, it matters. And sometimes it's not always doing the thing that they want you to do.
Oh,
right.
That's true.
So like, enabling parents who enable their kids,
right.
Not always helping them out.
That's not kindness.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So wisdom.
Or even like like we talk about kindness to people we don't know, but even kindness with the people that you do know, like hearing them out, giving them the benefit of the doubt, or, just kind of knowing their story or where they're coming from shows that kindness.
I think kindness can even be with people sitting down and having a real and honest conversation. Kindness looks a lot of different ways when it overflows out of that idea of tender-hearted concern for others.
Yeah.
So we have an interesting opportunity today. We have 5 good minutes with one of our very own, Anthony Senecal, and he's going to be joining us in studio. So Corey, I am so sorry. Is this awkward? Because we're going to invite Anthony to come and take your seat for just a few minutes to spend 5 good minutes with him. Is that a problem?
He's like, where's
at the risk
kindness?
of being unkind.
Of all people,
you're going to need
Anthony?
to move.
Are you kidding me?
How did this happen? This is an outrage. That's so great. So with that in mind, what a great intro. Let's welcome Anthony Senecal for 5 good minutes. We are here with Anthony Senecal for 5 good minutes on the Bold Moves podcast. Anthony, it's good to have you join us.
It's good to be here.
You're in the studio. It's fantastic. You got your coffee. What are you drinking there?
Black coffee.
Straight
up.
He's drinking coffee?
Black coffee?
Black coffee. Like a
Get
man.
out of here.
Yeah.
You're like the biggest coffee snob.
Yeah, good black cup. Nice Folgers here.
Folgers?
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, it's true. I'm not afraid
Get
to degrade
outta here.
myself a little bit.
So are you just kind of working your way through that, and it's painful every drop?
It is. I'm choking on it as it's going down, but I'm making it happen.
You're just desperate for caffeine today. Okay,
100%.
that's fantastic. We're talking about kindness, and I just realized I called Anthony a coffee snob. Was that offensive to you? Because if it was, I want to apologize
super
to
I've
them.
grown thick enough skin that I can withstand it.
Well,
We're good.
no, it's because it's true. So he's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's
it's
just like,
fine.
yes,
Fine. I
that's
can
a badge
own
of honor for him. Yes,
it
I
is.
am a coffee snob.
snob. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Hey, so we're talking about kindness. We've been talking about the Good Samaritan, kind of as an example of kindness.
Yeah.
In that story, there's the Levite, the temple assistant, and the Samaritan. In a day-to-day situation, which one of those would you be, Anthony?
Oh, gosh. I think everybody always wants to be the Samaritan.
Oh,
True.
that's good.
But the truth is, when you walk into Walmart, do you stop and talk to the homeless guy out front?
Of course.
You always do. Yes,
I'm a pastor. Yes.
Yeah, you do every single time. I do. That was my point, actually. That's the point I was making. I was guilt tripping everybody else.
Yes.
Probably Kristen. I don't know. I'm assuming you just walk right in, right?
I give him a wave.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Good work. That's fantastic. So what nugget of wisdom do you have on kindness to help us open our eyes to these moments and just be more intentional about being kind? Because we're recognizing kindness matters.
Yeah.
Kindness can change the trajectory of a person's life who's going through a rough spot. So what have you been thinking about? What's on your mind with kindness?
Yeah, well, I think, like there's the example you just gave of expressing kindness, like someone who's overlooked, who you stop and you talk to, who you wouldn't think about. But more often than not, I think what we struggle with when we want to show kindness is anger, right?
Oh, like, that's interesting.
Anger stops us from being kind to people.
Yes.
And then, I mean, the example you gave, like, that's kind of like apathy, right? Like when we're walking past someone on the street, we don't pay attention to them.
I just
we don't pay attention
care.
to people in our lives. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that comes from anger, right?
Interesting. Tie that together for me. What are you talking about? Because I like that. Where are you going? Explain that.
What happens is, we'll use the example of someone who's homeless sitting on the corner. Like the kind of people who would just walk past, like chances are you're walking past because you're thinking like, oh, this guy's lazy. Like this person doesn't want to work. He should get a job. You're angry.
I'm angry that he's not working.
Yeah.
And instead of being kind, I just walk
past.
That's
I'm
interesting.
Yeah. And like, as I'm reading through the fruit of the Spirit, right? Like it's almost like for each one, there's like a weed that's really good at choking out the fruit.
Oh, like, that's good.
Yeah.
Anthony, I think in all of the fruits that we've been talking about, that's the first person who's brought up that concept. That's a great, look at you, man, dropping the knowledge on us. So you would say that the weed that kind of chokes out the fruit of the Spirit that is kindness would be anger.
Anger. Yeah.
Interesting. So if I want to be kind, I actually have to work on anger also.
Yeah. It's like, it sounds counterintuitive because you think like, oh, I'm looking at these fruit. I need to work on these. Like, I feel like what we tend to do right off the bat is you look at the list and you're like, oh, I'm the best at these and I'm the worst at these. So I should work on this.
Interesting.
And it becomes like a TED Talk leadership, like personality test assessment.
Yes.
Instead of like the fruit of the Spirit are not like 9 character traits to work on.
Right.
They're the character traits of Jesus.
They overflow out of us when we're following
him altogether. Yeah. And, part of following Jesus is realizing what stops me from being kind, what stops me from being peaceful,
that's good.
what stops me from having joy. So we don't look at how do I be kinder, we look at what stops me from being kind. And we cut that out of our life.
And so identify that and make sure I uproot that out of my life because it's keeping me from being who God wants me to be.
Yeah.
Anthony, that's a good word.
Thanks.
I like that.
Yeah.
What do you think about the t-shirts that say, in a world where you can be anything, be kind?
Be kind.
Do you like those?
Yeah. I think, I think that they're fun. I think I would rather have a shirt like in a world in a world where you can be anything, like be like Jesus.
Oh, that's a good one.
That works
I saw
too.
one that said, in a world where you can be anything, be a pirate. I think that's great.
I like that. Be a pirate.
Batman. I saw
one that said, be a unicorn.
Be a unicorn.
I love that. It makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to that. You do have to choose to be kind. Like, this is who I'm going to be, and allow that quality of Jesus, that character, to overflow out of your life. You have to be intentional.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to your t-shirt thing. When people wear those shirts, they kind of have to.
Yeah.
Like
That puts the pressure on.
Accountable.
Yes.
Have you ever noticed like the people who do wear those shirts are always never the kindest people you know? It's like the people with the Jesus fish bumper stickers and they always drive like jerks.
Yeah, that's
like,
true. That always drives me nuts.
Yeah.
That's why I never put those bumper stickers on my car. Just to be
I'm
clear.
comfortable driving like a jerk. Yeah.
I love that. Well, there's something to be said about intentionality. And not being apathetic to the needs of the people around you. Because, I mean, we're talking about this today, too. You never know what people are going through. Like, there are people in your life who are desperate for hope. They're hurting. And one word of kindness, one kind act can truly change everything. And when we're willing to be intentional, that allows us to be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does change things.
Yeah.
I like that, Anthony. What else? What other nuggets of wisdom do you got for us? What's on your mind there?
Yeah, in a sermon, you talked about when the Israelites were wandering the desert and they come across the walls of Jericho, right? And their first instinct is like, nope, let's go back. I'm done. I'm out. Goodbye. Like, I feel like when we're working to be more like Jesus, like when we're living life, we're getting through the desert, trying to get to where God wants us. Yeah. We come across these like strongholds, like these walls that prevent us from getting to where we want to go. And I think anger is the one that stops us on the way to kindness, right? Like growing the fruit of kindness.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I think the instinct is to turn around and go back, right? Like we don't want to overcome
it's the difficult
this anger.
wall.
Yeah. Like, and usually anger comes from this like deep rooted like hurt or something that you haven't dealt with that really needs to get dealt with. Like it's the
unresolved
core
issues.
stuff. Yeah. And like that takes boldness. Like we have to overcome that. We have to be bold enough to look at it and not back down and walk away. But we'll never make bold moves to love people or to go out of our way to be kind to people and help change their lives through that kindness if we haven't dealt with the stuff in ourselves.
If we're dealing with our own anger and our own apathy, I think it all ties together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good word. Kristen, you got anything to say to that? You were kind of leaning in like you're excited to say something there, no?
Yeah, I agree with you a lot.
Thank you. I can rest easier now.
That's very kind of you to say, Kristen.
It's just like, so your anger, like it just makes me think like, so if we're going to show this kindness to people, like there's something that's living there, and just like, well, why do I feel that is what you're saying, and getting to the root.
Yeah, and like, I mean, kindness too. Like, I don't want to just leave the definition of kindness at like just courteousness, right? Or like being polite in public. Like, kindness is the warmth of Jesus, right?
Yes.
Like, it's having a presence that feels like Jesus when you're with people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good word. Anthony, thank you for sharing these thoughts with us. That's actually been very thought-provoking, and I think that's going to be meaningful to the dozens of people who still watch the Bold Moves podcast. I think this is going to be great.
Like 4 of you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. No, we've added your mom. We've added
my mom, my grandmom, my wife, my mother-in-law.
What?
Yeah, we're good right there.
You have single-handedly tripled the viewership of our Bold Moves podcast. Thank you,
I was waiting for you to ask. I got you. Yeah.
I love it. Anthony, these have been 5 good minutes. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
You're the man.
Thank you.
All right, those were 5 good minutes with Anthony. Corey, welcome back.
Glad to be back. I will say, though, sitting here now, this microphone really smells like coffee.
Get out of here.
Honestly, no, that might be Maxwell House. I'm not sure.
House. You know, Anthony, he's this coffee snob. You know, he works for a couple of months at a coffee shop in Nashville, and suddenly you're a perfectionist and expert in all things coffee.
Yeah.
He's drinking Folgers.
Stop. Say 3 kind things about Anthony.
Yeah, we can't trash Anthony on an episode of kindness.
He has a really nice wife.
He has a very nice. Kelsey is amazing.
She's wonderful.
What do you got?
His daughter is just a joy.
And she's a beautiful, they have been blessed with a beautiful daughter.
3. Go, Tim.
You know, Anthony has brought my grandpa's clothes back in style. So it's fantastic. I appreciate that. That's fantastic.
There you go, Anthony.
I love it. Anthony is the man. I'm so glad. Great to have Anthony on the podcast. And dropped some knowledge. Yeah. I mean, that was good stuff. Yeah. I love what Anthony said. See, this is real kindness. I'm being real now. Yeah. I love what he said about the weed that is associated with every fruit. We have not talked about that up to this point this summer. And that's a good point. So the counter fruit, if you will, I don't know how to say that. Just, I guess the weed, the counterpoint.
The vegetable?
Yes, because vegetables are the worst. Yes. So yes, weeds, vegetables, it's all the same to me. Yep. Not eating any of them. None of that belongs on my plate. That's the food my food eats.
Oh my word.
I've got issues. Yeah, I have no idea. No, when we talk about the idea of anger, I thought that was an interesting point. Like anger being kind of the opposite of that. Like I have my own issues that are unresolved. It prevents me from being kind. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, when he said anger, I actually thought judgment.
Ooh,
instead of anger.
That would go hand in hand. Yes. Because I judge, I have a precondition in my mind of what that person is or how they've gotten to that point. So I've judged them and I just pass them by. I will not show them care. That is very interesting. What does that look like in real life then? Like in our culture, I mean, do we experience that? Do we avoid that? What's going on there? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Honestly, for me, so I actually a while ago, several years ago, I just decided to stop talking online. Like
that's good.
Making posts on Facebook or doing anything like that.
Right.
Because I've just sort of learned over the years, it doesn't do any good.
That's true. Nobody changes their mind on Facebook. Yep.
But our culture has not adopted that. And I'm not necessarily advocating that everybody does what I do. But what people do on message boards, the things that they say to strangers, that is an area where kindness does not prevail almost ever.
And you see anger in those kinds of posts. Yes. You see judgment in those kinds of posts. And it's like unrestrained, like because there's no real accountability. It's not faced. You say things you would never say to someone in real life. And yet it becomes part of this subculture of who we are, which is not good.
Yeah, you take a comment that somebody makes and you boil it down into this one little thing that you make then all these assumptions about them because of this one comment. And the truth of the matter is we are all complex beings. We have so much going on. And the truth is Even if you saw that person in real life, you would have no idea what it is they've gone through in their life, the things that they're going through currently, and the fact that they probably have a lack of hope in their life.
Yeah, and those comments start other people's unkindness. Unkindness, is that a word?
It's a snowball.
Like they start because then they hit reply and it's like,
they comment on that.
Whatever. It just
it's so brutal. It's so brutal.
Yeah.
I think that for those reasons alone, if there was nothing else, no other examples of people not being kind, being angry, being judgmental, we know there are many more examples than just that. But I think that just speaks to what you said, Corey, in a culture where people are so desperate for hope, really more desperate than ever for an act of kindness.
Yeah.
That's where our kindness, if we allow that to overflow out of our hearts and be a fruit of the Spirit in our life, that's going to make more of a difference than we would ever know. And I would just encourage people who are watching, who are joining today, let's be intentional. Like let's have tender-hearted concern for the people that God has placed in our lives, the people that we're walking by every day, and just be intentional. Like who's hurting? Who could benefit so much from just a single word of kindness? Someone who would listen to them and just ask them how they're doing and actually mean it and want to care about enough to listen to the answer. Those random acts of kindness, I think they make more of a difference than we know.
Yeah. So we talk about kindness and what that can mean. So like, as you're talking about hopelessness and people just needing the hope, here's what I know is that we believe that Jesus is the hope that everybody needs.
Yep.
Right. So way back at the beginning, where this is episode 13, I think it was like episode 3, we talked with Kevin and Jack, and we talked about inviting people to church.
Yes.
That might be the most kind thing you could ever do.
That's
for
interesting.
somebody, is giving them an on-ramp to hope, unlimited hope in Jesus.
You know what's something is beautiful and simple when it comes out that I stumbled upon recently? It's that phrase, come to church with me, but adding, sit by me. Like, I'll be with you. Like, we're in this together. I mean, some people just need that companionship, that friend.
Right.
I mean, it makes more of a difference than we know.
You want to talk about being as loving as you can be with a kind heart. Inviting somebody into a relationship with Jesus is as good as it gets.
It really changes everything.
Yeah.
I love it. Guys, this is good stuff. I think it was great having Anthony on board. It gave some great stuff to talk about. So I will just be kind again to Anthony.
Yeah.
I actually really do like Anthony. And you know what? Just because he brought my grandpa's clothes back in style, that doesn't diminish any other thing that he brings to the table. I actually like that style now. It's grown on me. How about that? Maybe I'll dust off something from the 1960s and make it come back into fashion. Who knows? I don't know if I have that power or not.
Your grandpa will be honored.
I honor you, Grandpa, with this polyester leisure suit.
Anthony taught me.
I love it. I love it. Gen Z is bringing all kinds of things back. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens. Hey, I would encourage you and challenge you. If you're watching this and you've still somehow stayed to this point after all of this blathering on, let's encourage everyone we know and lead the way. Let's be kind. Because in a world where you can be anything, how about this? Be kind. Thanks for joining us when it's time to make your move. You guys, be bold. We'll see you next time.